Stop worrying, start living. Now you're gonna say, okay, this is the silliest thing I've ever heard. Well, it really is true. Sometimes the most basic things are the most important ones. Like we constantly worry. And why is that? Because our mind constantly worries about the, sorry, the light. Our mind constantly worries about anything really. That's the purpose. That's how evolution has primed us. That's our mind. That's why we have this skew towards negativity. We always think what could go wrong, even before even there's the slightest chance of it going wrong. Yesterday I was with a friend and she kind of locked herself out. And so while we were kind of like, it was beautiful weather, we were walking around outside. We went back to the apartment a few times, seeing that whether anybody else is in the house that could open the door. And every time we kind of started walking towards, she was like, "Oh, I really hope the someone is going to be there. Someone might not be there, etc., etc." So she was always assuming someone is not going to be there, etc. And so that kind of then creates a whole kind of cloud of negativity, and ultimately, I'm not saying that will that means that no one is then going to be there, but kind of you're setting up yourself for failure. And that's kind of what we do all the time when we're worrying. Not only are we setting ourselves up for failure because we believe certain things will happen, right? We're worrying, oh, we're going to run out of money. We're worrying, oh, this is not going to be a nice date. Oh, we're worrying tomorrow is going to be the weather bad, or the holiday might not turn out the way, or, we might miss the flight, or, whatever. And think about how often these things have not happened. But more importantly, while you're worrying, the quality of your life just drops because you put yourself in a state of like, oh my God. First of all, you're not present. You're not in the moment. You're not, whatever is happening right now is probably totally fine, but you're kind of somewhere in the future and think about this could go wrong or that could go wrong. So you're suffering in that moment. Secondly, that kind of puts yourself in a different state, and you show up differently. You don't smile anymore. You kind of slump over. Other people are gonna get that, whatever you want to call it, negative energy, negative vibe. It's just people pick up on it, and as a result will also start reacting negatively, and then kind of it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It doesn't mean that specific thing that you're worrying is actually going to happen, but other bad stuff is going to happen. And I think thirdly, and most importantly, nothing will change by you worrying. Like as Eckhart Tolle beautifully said in his book The Power of Now, there's really three things you can do. Accept something, change it, or let it go. Like any other state, like you're in your mind worrying or agonizing over something, changes zero, lowers your enjoyment of that moment, pulls you out of that moment you're in into kind of a future bad moment. It could be just the opposite. Like, think about it. Why are we always worrying? Why don't we always think about the opportunities that something might bring? You might turn around the next corner and bump into a friend, and then that might lead to an amazing dinner where you meet your future business partner, etc. Your mind never does that, but your mind constantly does like, oh, I might turn around the corner and then someone might attack me, or, someone might take my money. And yes, bad things happen, and we obviously should take preparation, but worrying is not preparation. Worrying is just worrying and just makes you suffer in the process, and really there's zero value added of that. So the things you should do is, either you're just present and don't worry about that imminent future that you're worrying about. That doesn't mean you don't plan in life. It just means you're not constantly thinking about everything that could go wrong without actually doing something about it. So if worrying leads to an action, you can have a short worrying period. So you say, oh, I think, we should get car insurance because we might have an accident. Okay, get car insurance and stop worrying. Stop worrying about having an accident because, what's the point? And I'm kind of keep repeating this over the last 4 minutes now, but I think it cannot be stressed enough, because no matter whether you yourself hammer that into yourself or I do that now, like you still gonna go back to worrying. It's so deeply ingrained. It's at such a foundational level of your mind that you constantly have to remind yourself not to do it, because you will automatically fall back. It's kind of like pre-programmed, and that program is restarted every second. Every second you start worrying, it's going to restart. And so you have to kind of start observing. I believe the best way to deal with that is pull you back into present, like always, like think about right now, not think about, there's no point really thinking the future through, rather there's a point of planning the future and kind of anticipating things and then take action, but kind of like ruminating and being in that future place, that means you're not living. Because whenever you're not present, you're actually not living. You're somewhere where you're not. And so you have no enjoyment, and you not you not only make your present worse, but you're also not changing anything in the future. So it's really, if you really believe there's some action that needs to be taken, and often, of course, that's the case, we kind of need to organize our life and we want to unfold it in a certain way, but then take action, like, change it, do something about it. Don't just think like, oh my God, this could go wrong, or this person might not like me, or she's not going to be nice to me, or whatever. Like, you know yourself all the things you're worrying. So what I encourage you to start doing, like, very simply, start noticing every time you worry, and just call yourself like, okay, why am I worrying? Like, and you will see you worry like constantly, like literally you wake up worrying, you go to bed worrying, like every time you're not in the moment, you probably are, a big part of that, you're probably worrying or stressed out about something. And so the first thing is start noticing it, and then start kind of working against it. So start trying to notice it faster, and then kind of capture it and stop it. The moment you realize, oh, I'm actually worrying, and then you kind of think through, like, does this actually make sense worrying about it? Like, why am I worrying about it? And does it change anything? Am I in a better place because I worry about it? And then you are going to very soon realize, if you challenge your thinking that way, that actually doesn't make any sense. So that will then make it easier, kind of whenever these things bubble up, to just push them down. So your job is, if you want to enjoy life, to stop, like, to kind of work against kind of some of the very evolutionary, basic, foundational, primal ways of acting, because they're, and I've talked about this in other videos, they're just not meant for you, for this world, kind of the 21st century, 2019. They're not made for you to be happy. So if and again, happy, some people say, oh, happy is when I drink or party or whatever, or have sex, or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about, happiness. I'm talking kind of like a baseline happiness, that if you're sitting in your couch with a book and doing something totally unexciting. I mean, maybe for some people that's exciting. I can get really excited about a book. But anyway, let's think about something where you're just in a kind of stale moment. You're kind of at your desk, maybe listening to this video, or after listening to this video, and nothing is really happening. No one's calling you. You're just there. How do you feel of a scale from 1 to 10? Like, are you a 10 excited? Like I'm, for example, while I'm talking, but otherwise I'm looking outside and I'm just, wow, it's such an incredible view. And it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful day. And so I don't know, what am I? Right now I'm doing what I love anyway. So let's say I think I'm a 10 out of 10. And so ask yourself, when you're kind of in like nothing special is happening, on what level you are. And that's your baseline happiness. So whenever I refer to happiness, that's what I mean. How do you feel when nothing specific is happening? And basically worrying is just pulling you constantly down to that level. So you're never actually enjoying life, and you're always living for the future. Oh, once I have all these things, then I'm going to be happy. And if you look back in your life, that probably never happened, right? Once you had these things, then you had a quick high, and then you came back to what's the baseline happiness. So one way of increasing your well-being and how you enjoy life, and yes, I'm going to learn to start looking into this camera, is by reducing worries, kind of, because it just pulls you out of the good place you can be all the time. And I think the important thing is, worrying doesn't change anything. You're not a happier person. You're not going to be better prepared. Once you take action, then things can change, whatever action is needed. But the worrying is, you worry most of the time about stuff that is highly unlikely to happen, and then you also don't do something about it. You just worry about it. Because if you would do something about it, you wouldn't worry about it, you would actually take action. So try to notice this, and then try to kind of cut it off. And the best way is kind of by reasoning that it actually doesn't make any sense. And then you're gonna stop, like, the worry will still come up, but it will be only there for a millisecond, and then you move on again. And that's all what it is about. And once you start doing this, life will never be the same again.